So part 2 of DeityFree Dee. The author of whatever she's reading lists people who wrote around the time of Christ that he existed. I don't like saying Jesus. It's too preachy, televangelist. Jesus, call him Christ, right? Or Yeshua Bar Yosef would be his name. But who is considered the greatest historian of the Roman era? Tacitus. Tacitus writes about Jesus. Let's actually go to historians, not emperors or, poets. Tacitus, Pliny, Trajan, an emperor, Suetonius, Celsus. These are all pagan Romans. Paul, the woman reading this, clearly didn't even read Paul. You have 7 authentic letters of Paul. The 7 authentic letters of Paul are, and these are undisputed, the 7 undisputed works, which would be Romans, Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians. Actually, those 4 are all you need. There's also Philippians and Philemon. The pastorals are disputed, and Ephesians and Colossians are disputed. But let's just go with 3 of them: Romans, 1 Corinthians, and Galatians. For if Christ was not crucified, and if he did not rise from the dead, then we have no hope. For we shall rise as he rose. We will be resurrected as he was resurrected. Paul also mentions the Last Supper. Paul says Jesus was a man born of a woman under the law. Why would he know about the Nativity? Those stories came afterwards. You do realize the earliest Gospels are Mark and John, right? And the earliest writings that are in the Christian New Testament canon are Paul, or the Pauline works. So, yeah. Oh, not to mention, he mentions Jesus' brother. I went down and saw James, the brother of Jesus. So a guy who's born of a woman under the law, who is crucified and resurrected, and he emphasizes this because he says that's exactly what's going to happen to us. We're going to be resurrected in the same way he was, and who has a brother who's still alive. You're telling me Paul didn't think Jesus or Christ was a real living, breathing man? Since when did Jesus live in Nazareth? He lived in Capernaum. But, okay, so let's just, not even just the top Roman writers, not to mention Josephus, I already went over that. There is a half of a sentence that might be interpolation, but no historian says that everything about Jesus in Josephus is a forgery, because we have non-Christian copies of Josephus that don't have that half of sentence, but have the rest, and then have the part where it talks about James, the brother of Jesus of Nazareth. 98 AD, we have Clement of Rome writing his letter. Between 100 and 115, we have Ignatius of Antioch writing 7 letters. Then you have Polycarp. Then you have Papias. Then you have Irenaeus of Lyon. Heck, in the lifetime of Jesus, you have Marabar Serapion, who actually mentions this guy. And as for the miracles, some of those were metaphorical, like, the virgin birth narrative of Jesus, Mary having to flee with the infant Christ into Egypt because Herod and the king. Matthew is telling the reader that this is the second Moses, right? The last and the final. You didn't get that out of reading Matthew? Isn't that why it's different from Luke? I mean, it's ludicrous. The Didache was written in AD 50. AD 50. The Didache. What about the Epistle of Barnabas? I mean, just stuff that didn't even make it in. This is ludicrous. Paul didn't think Jesus was a living man. Yet, he talks about actions that he did. As for miracle workers, again, he was a sorcerer. Most thought he was a sorcerer. Why was he put to death? Why was he put to death? Why was he a threat to Romans? Because when he entered Jerusalem, he entered the same way Judas Maccabeus entered. They said, screw that. It's Passover, city swelling, crucify him. Because the people were laying down palm fronds. The Palm Sunday, remember that? Judas Maccabeus entered the same way. And you know who Judas Maccabeus was? He started the Hasmonean dynasty. He kicked out the... He defeated Antiochus Epiphanes. He kicked out the Hellenizers. And that the Hasmonean kingdom lasted up until Pompey took Judea and Decapolis and, subjugated it again. Just less than 100 years before the crucifixion of Jesus. They weren't going to have a repeat of that. Fucking kill the guy. Not to mention read anything from antiquity. Sorcery is a common thing. Miraculous stuff is a common thing. In fact, it was common for the next 1,500 years. So was alchemy and astrology. Yeah. He wasn't a real guy. Yet, you have all these people being killed because of him, and nobody, not even his detractors, not even the pagan Romans, are saying, yeah, he's an invention. I mean, the fact that you'd say Paul didn't think he was a man of flesh and blood that actually died, or that... it's ludicrous. Ludicrous. You didn't even take the time to read Paul. I mean, read the undisputed works, not the pastorals or Ephesians or Colossians. You could read those, that's fine. But the undisputed ones, like Romans, Corinthians, and Galatians, just those three. And, yeah, are you getting your information from... This guy's getting his information from Richard Carrier, who, for all his claims about how Jesus never existed, even though he's not a New Testament scholar... winds up admitting, yeah, Jesus existed. He's done that publicly 3 times. He does it to sell books. Him and Robert Price, when backed into a corner, say, yeah, he did exist, but I'm just trying to go after the idea of the deity of... The easiest way to disprove Christ's deity is going at him with the critical historical method, as a typical run-of-the-mill man who got crucified and was seen as a sorcerer. Okay, I guess there's going to be a part 3, because when I got to that Pauline part, you obviously didn't even take... you need to research things. When somebody, you just don't read things and take them at, why do you take things at face value? You don't check them, you don't check your facts. You take this guy's word at gospel. I mean, I read papers and studies and archaeological surveys. At least 5 of each before I even go into an endeavor to publish something. But you're not trained in the critical historical method, are you?